is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea. Dear listeners, now we start the English language service of Voice of Korea from Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Here is a mixed chorus, Song of General Kim Il-sung. Prisoner Male Chorus, Song of General Kim Jong-il. You are listening to VOK, Voice of Korea, News Now. Kim Jong-un, Chairman of the Workers' Party of Korea and Chairman of the State Affairs Commission and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, watched the test fire of the super-large multiple rocket launches undertaken by the Academy of Defense Science. It was watched by General Park Jong-chun, Chief of the General Staff of the Korean People's Army and commanders of the large combined units of the Army. The running test fire was aimed at making a final examination of the combat applicability of the super-large multiple rocket launches. It proved that the military and technical superiority and firm reliability of the weapon system. Kim Jong-un expressed great satisfaction over the result of the test fire. The commanders of the large combined units of the Korean People's Army respectively offered greetings of congratulations and thanks to Kim Jong-un, who had many arms and equipment with great power developed and completed this year alone to strengthen the People's Army militarily and technically. The respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un sent a message of greetings to President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. The message said, Nouakchott, Your Excellency Muhammad Ould al-Sheikh al-Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. I extend warm congratulations to you and the government and people of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania on the occasion of the 59th anniversary of independence of Mauritania in the name of the government and people of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I take it a pleasure that the friendly relations between the DPRK and Mauritania with long history and tradition are developing favorably as ever.
Believing that the good, friendly, and cooperative relations between the two countries could be further expanded and developed in the future, I sincerely wish you and your people success in the work for independent development and prosperity of the country. Kim Jong-un, Chairman of the State Affairs Commission of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Pyongyang, November the 28th, Chute 108, or 2019. Nature Museum and Cutting Edge Technology Development Center of Kim Il-sung University were inaugurated on November the 28th. Present at the inaugural ceremony were Vice Premier Lee Ryong-nam, officials concerned, officials, teaching staff, and students of the university. Inaugural address was made by Choi Sang-gon, President of Kim Il-sung University and Minister of Higher Education. The Nature Museum is an educational and edification-based and scientific research and dissemination center, giving comprehensive knowledge of underground resources and flora and fauna of Korea. More than 10,000 items of different kinds of specimens, including those sent by the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il and the respected Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, are on display, divided into 14 sectional quarters. The newly built Cutting Edge Technology Development Center, with a total floor space of 18,000 square meters, is fully equipped with 9 research and development quarters, academic exchange quarters, including discussion room, joint development room, exhibition room, and educational quarters, comprising lecture hall and conference hall. After the ceremony, the participants looked around the museum and the development center. Members of the delegation of the Youth Affairs Bureau of the Russian Federation, who visited the Songdo-won International Children's Camp, praised the policy of Korea on attaching importance to posterity. Andrei Platonov, head of the delegation, said, "I heard a lot about Korea, which attaches special importance to the work for the coming generations. What I saw here deeply impresses me. I was surprised to see the ordinary school children enjoying camping without paying a penny at the camps built in scenic places. It is not an easy job for the state to bear the full burden for the children's camping." Valeria Chernogorодova said, through the visit, she saw the bright future of Korea to be prosperous forever. Vasily Babak said, the Songdo-won International Children's Camp is really wonderful, and he was deeply moved by the story of love shown by the leaders of Korea for the camp. He stressed that he came to know better about the policy of Korea, giving primary importance to the posterity. Talks were held on the 26th between Oh Chung-bok, Minister of Public Health, on a visit to Cuba at the head of the DPRK Public Health Delegation, and Jose Angel Porta Miranda, Cuban Minister of Public Health. Both sides discussed issues on further strengthening the exchanges and cooperation between the two countries in the field of public health. Present at the talks on the DPRK side were members of the delegation, DPRK Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to Cuba, and on Cuban side, officials concerned, including Vice Minister of the Public Health of Cuba. A memorandum of understanding and cooperation between the public health ministries of the DPRK and Cuba in the field of public health and medicine was signed. A delegation of the Kim Il-sungist Kim Jong-ilist Youth League, headed by Kim Song-il, vice chairman of its Central Committee, left Pyongyang by train on the 28th to attend the 20th conference of the World Federation of Democratic Youth to be held in Cyprus and visit Venezuela.
The Symphony Orchestra of the State Grand Theater of China, headed by director Wang Ning, flew in Pyongyang on the 29th. A reception was given in honor of the orchestra that evening.
Daniel Nicola, chargé d'affaires ad interim of Romania to the DPRK, gave a reception at the Daedonggang Diplomatic Club in Pyongyang on the 28th, on the occasion of the National Day of Romania. Invited to the reception were officials of the foreign ministry, officials concerned, and members of foreign diplomatic missions and missions of international organizations in Korea. Staff members of the Romanian embassy were on hand. Are the eyes of Abe coated with bean flour? Press statement of Deputy Department Director for Japanese Affairs of the DPRK Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A fool cannot be mended with medicine. This is just becoming to the Japanese Prime Minister Abe, who has completely revealed his ignorance and stupidity by describing our running test flight of super large multiple rocket launchers as a ballistic missile launch. It is because Abe continues to play fool of not distinguishing soybean from Edozuki bean. In early November, he slandered our test flight of super large multiple rocket launchers as ballistic missile firing, even at the venue of the ASEAN Summit meeting. So, he was abused as an underweight, rare deformed man who does not distinguish multiple rocket launcher from missile. After all, he experienced a hot agony of shame. On November the 28th, when our running test flight of super large multiple rocket launchers was successful amid great satisfaction, Abe hurriedly called an emergency state security meeting and recklessly said, "It is a ballistic missile launch and a serious challenge to the international community." In the wake of Abe, the Chief Cabinet Secretary, the Defense Minister, the Foreign Minister, and other inferiors and media of Japan describe it as a ballistic missile launch. It is reminiscent of small dogs barking in the wake of a big dog. We have reported a recent test fire along with big pictures of a launch in the meaning that such fools as Abe should not mistake again, but clearly see what flew with their own eyes. However, Abe does not distinguish the multiple rocket launcher from missile while seeing the pictures through which even the civilians as well as soldiers can recognize at a glance. Surely he is the only and unprecedented idiot in the world and the worst fool. The whole world acknowledges our recent test fire as that of multiple rocket launchers. But only Abe is acting strangely, as if a big event happened, while insisting the multiple rocket launcher as a missile, ridiculed by the world people. He seems to be a coward dog or a puppy playing a trick with its tail so as to flatter the United States, his master. Anyway, we see him as nothing but dog. Maybe he has made a calculation that the United States will like a queer voice of threat from North Korea at this moment when the DPRK-US negotiations are at a deadlock. Certainly, the brain of the political dwarf is as good as that of a sparrow. Abe is acting rashly, with his eyes coated with soy flour and his face covered with iron shit. So it is quite natural for him to be treated as a thin-haired puppy prowling about without taking part in the international politics. If we have dealings with such a rare idiot, unsatisfactory dwarf, only bad luck to bring shame is expected. Therefore, it is good for us not to face him forever from the very start. This is our idea, which gets firmer with each passing day. What's more, it is ridiculous that he described a multiple rocket launcher recognized by those even across the ocean as a ballistic missile, though he is living in the position nearest to us with the East Sea of Korea between. It is really awkward for him to talk about a serious challenge not only to Japan but also to the international community, threat from North Korea, and protest, even though our shells did not fall in the Japanese waters. Though nobody beat him, Abe is obstinate in saying that he was beaten, and clearly he is stupid. There is a Korean saying that the fool invites beating while carrying a castle on his shoulder. Abe will be able to see what the real ballistic missile is like before long and very nearby. We advise him to compare the multiple rocket launcher and the ballistic missile properly and remember their difference. Abe is a perfect fool and an uncommon political dwarf. Pyongyang estimates Abe like this.
Pyongyang, November 30th, Suche 108 or 2019.
A rally was held in Fukuoka Prefecture of Japan on the 16th in protest against the national discrimination policy of the Japanese authorities that excluded the kindergartens of Korean schools from the list of the program for free education and upbringing of children. Present there were more than 300 people, including the officials of the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan and Koreans in Fukuoka Prefecture, the Japanese personages, and those related with the meeting for supporting Korean schools. A keynote report and speeches were made by teaching staff of the kindergartens of the Korean schools and the Japanese personages. A solidarity message from the Committee for Overseas Koreans was read out before adopting an appeal. The appeal stressed the need for all the Koreans to defend national education against the national discrimination and human rights abuses by the Japanese authorities. According to the South Korean online newspaper Zasu-Sibo, the Ryongsan District Regional Committee of the People's Party and the Citizens Meeting for Retaking U.S. military base in Ryongsan held a rally before the U.S. military base in Ryongsan on the 21st and demanded the withdrawal of the U.S. forces. The speakers denounced the United States for forcing the hike of the share of defense expense and maintained that the U.S. demand should not be accepted, as it is an issue related with the sovereignty and dignity of the nation.
And that's the end of the news read by Kim Hyun-ok, Cha Yun-kyung, and Lee Hyang-sim. This is Voice of Korea. We now bring you female chorus. How long will we wish you to see you?
appreciate Trumpy solo, my blessed life.
Now you will listen to the song We Love Party Flag. We love the red party flag of Father. It burns our hearts like the morning sun. The flutter sounds intimate like mother's voice. It is the most precious flag in the world that gave us a beautiful life. With bright dreams and ideas, we have grown up under the flag. Now you will listen to the electric violin duet, The Party's Mother.
Now here's a female chorus. People are of a single mind.
time, we will appreciate the Korean folk song, Song of the Sea.
Acme of impudence. Japan regulated in its diplomatic blue book for 2019 that the expression of sexual slavery for the old Japanese army should not be used, as it goes against the fact. After all, it justifies its assertion that the sexual slavery for the old Japanese army is prostitution and voluntary act for money-making. Its gangster-like sophistry, bereft of morality and shame, is the acme of the act of turning black into white. It is an intolerable insult not only to the victims of the sexual slavery, but also to the entire Korean nation that suffered all misfortunes and pains due to the Japanese imperialist invasion in the past century. Such a senseless act of the Japanese reactionaries openly negating the solid fact of crime, is a brazen-faced act to distort the history of aggression and evade the liquidation of past crimes. Japan took away women of different countries, including 200,000 Korean women, as sex slaves for the aggressor forces to deprive them of their youth and trample down their human rights. It is an unpardonable immoral crime. Human history records many wars, but found never before were the brutes like those in Japan that established the sex slavery by invoking state power and took away women to battlefields as a means of their ambition for aggression. The crime related to the sexual slavery for the old Japanese army is the most inhumane, immoral, and brutal extra-large of the war crimes committed by Japan. Hundreds of thousands of women who had been reduced to plaything of the Japanese army were not the women comforting the officers and men on the front mentally and psychologically. Literally, they were the slaves who had all been deprived of the elemental human rights and the right to existence, to say nothing of the dignity of woman and human being. The Japanese imperialists not only trampled down the women at will, regarding them as those as good as animals, but also did not hesitate to commit nefarious acts of shooting, burning, and burying them alive en masse all over in a bid to cover up the truth behind their crimes. It is the truth of history that cannot be concealed. Though Japan's crime of sexual slavery is nakedly revealed by the testimonies of the victims and historical records, Japan is making desperate efforts to delete the part of crimes concerned in textbooks and keep from setting up gold statues depicting sex slavery in all parts of the world. It has gone the lengths of writing in an official document the phrase that even the expression of sexual slavery should not be used. The impudent act of the Abe group diverts the will of the Korean people to settle accounts with the crimes of their long-standing enemy. Japan is to blame for the liquidation of the past, which is unavoidable. The Abe group should not do such an improper act as now, but kneel down before humanity to make a sincere apology and honest compensation for the crimes related to sexual slavery. So far, you've been listening to an account under the title, Acme of Impudence. This is Voice of Korea.
Dear listeners, with this we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Europe between 15 and 16 hours UTC, between 18 and 19 hours UTC, between 21 and 22 hours UTC, and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 7,570 kHz and 12,015 kHz. For North America, between 15 and 16 hours UTC and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 9,445 kHz and 11,710 kHz. And for Northeast